Imagine going to sleep one night, just like any other night, and waking up a week later. Sounds strange, right? But what if when you woke up you couldn't understand your family, and the words coming out of your own mouth were in a language you'd never learned? This isn't a scene from a movie. It's the bizarre, true story of a man who baffled doctors and linguists alike. Get ready, because we're about to dive into one of the most perplexing medical mysteries of our time. In the year 2007, a man we'll call Michael, just a regular guy living his life, suddenly fell ill with a severe headache. He went to bed, hoping to sleep it off. But he didn't wake up the next morning, or the morning after that. For 7 straight days, Michael was in a deep, coma-like sleep. His family was terrified. They rushed him to the hospital, where doctors ran every test imaginable. Brain scans, blood tests, you name it. Everything came back normal. There was no sign of a stroke, no brain injury, no infection. Medically speaking, there was no reason for him to be unconscious. The doctors were stumped. His family could only wait and hope for the best. Then, on the 7th day, just as suddenly as he had fallen asleep, Michael's eyes fluttered open. Relief washed over his family. He was awake. His wife rushed to his side, asking him how he felt. But when Michael opened his mouth to reply, what came out was not English. It was a stream of fluent, articulate, but completely unfamiliar sounds. He looked at his wife with confusion, unable to understand her words, and she stared back at him, equally bewildered. The man she had known and loved her whole life was now speaking a language neither of them recognized. It sounded ancient, almost like a form of Old Gaelic or Welsh, but experts in those languages couldn't place it. The hospital was thrown into chaos. How could a man who had only ever spoken English suddenly wake up speaking a completely different, unidentifiable language? Linguists were brought in from all over the world. They recorded his speech, analyzed its structure, its phonetics, its grammar. They compared it to thousands of known languages, both living and dead. Nothing matched. It was a complete linguistic anomaly. He wasn't just babbling, he was communicating with complex sentences and consistent rules. He was fluent in a language that, as far as anyone could tell, didn't exist. The term xenoglossy was brought up, the paranormal phenomenon of being able to speak a language one has never learned. But this was different. This wasn't a known language. It was something else entirely. Meanwhile, Michael was trapped in his own mind. Imagine the sheer terror and isolation. You wake up in a hospital, surrounded by the people you love, but you can't understand a word they're saying. And when you try to explain what's happening, to ask for help, they just look at you with fear and confusion. For all intents and purposes, he had become a foreigner in his own life. The frustration was immense. He would gesture, draw pictures, try anything to bridge the communication gap, but it was like hitting a brick wall. His brain had been completely rewired. The English language, the one he had used his entire life, was just gone, replaced by this mysterious new tongue. Doctors and scientists scrambled for a rational explanation. One theory was a rare form of aphasia, a brain disorder that affects language. Perhaps a small, undetected brain event had scrambled the language centers of his brain in a unique way, causing him to create a new pseudo-language. This is a known, though extremely rare, phenomenon. But it didn't fully explain the complexity and consistency of his new speech. His language had a sophisticated structure that seemed too well formed to be the result of random neural misfirings. Another theory pointed towards something called latent language. The idea is that our brains might hold dormant linguistic information, perhaps from distant ancestors, passed down through our DNA. Could a severe neurological event, like his week-long sleep, somehow trigger this dormant information to surface? It's a fascinating but highly speculative idea, deep in the realm of fringe science. As the days turned into weeks, something even stranger began to happen. Michael started to relearn English, slowly, painstakingly, like a toddler learning to speak for the first time. His family would point to objects and repeat the words. Cup, bed, water. At first, he would just repeat the sounds, but gradually connections started to form. The old neural pathways, it seemed, weren't entirely gone, just buried. It was an arduous process, filled with frustration and small victories. At the same time, his mysterious other language began to fade. The more English he relearned, the less he spoke the unknown tongue. It was as if his brain only had room for one primary language, and the two were fighting for dominance. Within a few months, Michael was able to communicate in basic English again. He could hold simple conversations and understand most of what was being said to him. When asked about the experience, he had no memory of the week he was asleep. For him, it was as if he had simply gone to bed with a headache and woken up in this confusing new reality. He also had no conscious memory of ever knowing the other language. To him, it was as if someone else had been speaking through his mouth. And then vanished, spoken by a man who now had no knowledge of it. The official diagnosis leaned towards a unique and profound case of aphasia, but many questions remain unanswered. What caused the initial 7-day sleep? How could his brain spontaneously generate a new, fully formed language? Was it a neurological glitch, a psychological phenomenon, or something else entirely? The recordings of his speech are still studied by linguists, a puzzle box with no key. It's a humbling reminder of how little we truly understand about the human brain, the most complex and mysterious object in the known universe. It's a machine capable of creating consciousness, memory, and language, but it can also glitch in ways that defy our current understanding of science. Michael eventually made a near-full recovery. He regained his fluency in English and went back to living a relatively normal life, albeit with an incredible story to tell. But the experience left a permanent mark on him and his family. It serves as a stark reminder that the reality we perceive is fragile, governed by the delicate chemical and electrical balances within our own skulls. A slight shift, a tiny misfire, and our entire world can be turned upside down. What do you think happened to Michael? Was it a bizarre brain malfunction, a glimpse into genetic memory, or something we can't even begin to explain? Let me know your theories down in the comments. The brain is the final frontier, and stories like this show us just how much we still have to explore. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the unexplained. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries of our world. Ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.